Hey, Lea Louise here, and I have 4 patches today. I want to show you different ways to make them out of scrappy pieces of fabric, out of leftover pieces that are sewn together that you can cut to the size you need, out of jelly roll strips, out of charm squares. Oh my gosh, we're going to do it all, and I can't wait to show you. So how do you make your 4 patches? I often just use charm squares. I love them. I always have plenty. I have a lot of Christmas ones right now, which is what I'm working on, Scrappy Christmas. And that's what I want, are scrappy 4 patches. Now this will work. I use 4 charms. I'll get 4 different 4 patches, and each of them will have each of these fabrics, which is great. But if I want to go super scrappy, sometimes you can use your jelly rolls, and I'm going to show you some ways to do this. Actually, I'm doing a row by row quilt along that I want to have some borders in, so that would work out good. Other times, we just have some leftover pieces we want to use. Now, check this out. This was, I think, a binding. I don't know. Maybe it was a border, but it's 2.5 inches wide all the way through. So I can cut these pieces into different lengths and create a 4 patch. We can also use little scraps and come up with a certain size, but we have to figure out what the common size is so our 4 patch will be a square. And then, of course, we have just our novelty fabrics and pieces that are laying around that we can pull together. I want to show you some different ideas with lots of different fabrics, so let's go ahead and get started. The first time you see a 4 patch that's done in 4 fabrics, you probably think you need to cut each one individually. You'll cut each square, and I'm going with a 2.5. I think I have enough. Oh, nope. Looks like I'm going with a 2. So that's the other thing you need to consider, is how much fabric can you get out of each piece. Extra triangles, I keep those. And this is a maybe. Not sure what I'll do with that, but here I have a 2-inch square. And I'm going to cut a 2-inch square from here. And I want to make sure I've got my 2-inch all the way. I'm going across the straight line, so I know I'm going with the straight of the grain. I don't want to cut this on a bias seam. And let's see, 2 inches will be here and here, just like that. And again, we have some strips. Whoops. There we are. We have some strips. We have some corners. We'll put that aside. All right, here we are. And let's see, where do I want to cut this one? I kind of like this corner up here with the holly berries. Okay, so I'm going to come in 2 inches. And oh, right there is 2 inches. So I'm going to get my holly right in the middle, which is perfect. Okay, so let's cut this. Now I'm going to go to 2 inches. So you can see, well, this is a fun way to do it, and you can get a lot of fabrics. You can use up a lot of small pieces. It can be a little time consuming when you have to cut each one individually, but it is a particularly fun way to do it. And if you don't know other ways, other ways that you can. I'm going to cut this at 2. No, I'm not. I'm going to cut this right here. I can't decide which way. Sometimes I get different ideas as I'm going along and think, how do I want to do this? But I can use this for something else. Oops, I better get that corner off. And I'm just going to do my squares. And I'm going to put them in alternating blocks. So I have the black and the reds alternating. With 4 2.5-inch squares, we can make a very simple 4 patch this way, and we're going to put our squares on top of each other and sew down our 1/4-inch seam. And then when we open these out and press them, we're going to flip it over and sew and have a beautiful block. Let me show you how this looks. The easiest way to do this is with a chain stitch, and you just want to go all the way through, sew them both without cutting your threads, and that makes it easy, because when you go to put them together, everything is right where you need it. Oh, except for that. Now, I am going to finger press it to the dark side. And sometimes I don't always use the dark side. It depends on what I'm doing. It depends on the fabric, and it depends on how I want the piece to go together. But the important thing for me is when I sew this, I'm going to sew it coming from this direction towards the seam allowance. And I'm going to make sure that this seam, let's go this way, is going to be lined up perfectly and I nest my seams, and that is where this seam goes this way, this seam allowance is this way, and you can feel them touching right there in the middle. And that's going to give us a wonderful seam. So let me sew this and press it, show you what it looks like. And here we are. We have a 4-patch made out of 2-inch squares. It finishes at 3.5, and it's wonderful. These are perfect. If you have a lot of squares, like a lot of times I will just cut scraps from pieces and hang on to these, sew them together. This is a great way to use them up. And you can alternate these with other pieces. So let's say we have a 4-inch, or actually we want, what did we say, a 3.5-inch, and put this next to the 4-patch and another 4-patch over here. Oh my gosh, that's a great way to make a quilt, and this saves you time because only half of your blocks are going to be 4-patches. Okay, good idea. Now, where do we go from here? When I'm making a scrappy quilt, I want to use everything I have, and I want to use it to its best advantage. This has a seam. There's 2 fabrics sewn together. Now, I want to make a 4-patch out of these 2.5-inch strips. So what I'm going to do is cut this at 2.5. But remember, there's a seam. So 1/4 inch is taken in the seam. I'm going to cut this at 2.25 inches from here to here. All right. There we go. Now I'm going to turn it around and do it the other way. So if you have pieces that are already partially assembled, then absolutely go ahead and use them and figure out how you can use those fabrics in a way that's going to be beautiful and serve the purpose you're looking for. Okay, now see, how fun would this be? Let's do it. Okay, so this one, again, I'm going to do the 2.25. Oh, these guys need to be pressed big time, don't they? And you can tell they've been kind of wadded up in the scrap bin for a while, but that's okay. It's been a long time since last Christmas, and these babies have been hanging out a good while. Let's see, where's 2 inches? Oh my goodness, all the way over here. Oh, that's right, from the center. I'm measuring from the wrong spot. No wonder it didn't look right. All right, so 2.5-inch blocks means I'm going to be taking a 1/2 inch out. So this should measure 4.5 inches, and there we are. But I do want to measure, double check that I have a 2.5-inch strip, and I'm going to put that straight line on that seam, and I'm going to trim from both edges just to make sure nothing got a little funky here. All right, so you see how quick this goes together when you use pieces that are, strips that are already sewn, that are already attached. So let's put our line right here. We're going to do the same thing. I love this ruler. 2.5-inch rulers are fantastic. And this one actually comes in a set of 4. I'll put the link down below because it is awesome. I use it all the time, especially if you use precuts. Okay, here we go, like that. Now, what I'm going to do is take this one, after it's pressed, of course, and this one, and look, what a great 4-patch that's going to be. If you're not paying attention, you might get something that looks like this. Not the look I'm going for. And this looks so much better, doesn't it? But I do want to show you that when I sewed this, I sewed this way, so I would have the seam allowance coming here. I could have gone this way and done it the other side, but I prefer this method every time I can because I do tend to get a better corner fit, and you see how those squares just fit up beautifully right there. Okay, there we are. Now, let's see what else we can come up with. Now, we just used a piece that was leftover binding, but these are the leftovers from a jelly roll. And these are cut at just about 10 inches, so that'll work out well. I have 3. I need another. These are all longer pieces. I tried to grab the small ones. Here we go. Oh, this is kind of a fun one. And because it's light, that's a good alternate. What else do we have? Oh, here's one. Well, this has kind of got a piece taken out, but you know what? I like using my smaller pieces first. Do you ever do that? I grab the big stuff when I need big pieces, but when I'm using scraps, I start with the smallest I can get away with. And in this case, I want 2.5-inch strips. So I'm going to align these, and I can't cut them at 10 inches because this one is only about 9. So here, I'm going to do it this way. So I'm going to put my block together sort of kind of how I might sew it. And I'd probably do this and this. So this is probably how I'll make the block. Now, that means I'm going to sew this one here and this one here. So let me do that and we'll show you how this works. My pairs of strips are sewn together and pressed to one side, and I'm going to cut 2.5 inches from the end of each of these and show you how this works. And it's a very simple process, and again, I do line a line on my ruler on the center seam just to make sure everything is straight. And I'm going to put these together like this. Oh, and look, my seam's going in the right direction. So I am going to sew this with my seams nesting just perfectly. Get a great corner there. But you know, there's another way we can do this. Rather than cutting them each individually, the other thing we can do, let me get my 5-inch ruler because I want to cut these down to 5 inches. Let me do it this way so I can see the edge right there and line that seam up in the middle to make sure we're square. And I'm going to cut this, so I should have about another 2.5-inch piece here. We'll save that. And I'm going to get a 5-inch here. Now, do you see where I'm going with this? Is this something you've done before? See, this is problematic. Now, maybe we could take this piece and put it there and make it fit, but we're not going there today. Okay, what I want to show you is we can put this together like this. And I'm just going to press that seam the other way. With my seams ready to be sewn, they're lined up to be nested. I'm going to get a great corner. I'm going to sew this outer edge. I'm going to take a 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch here and wait till you see how this turns out. I want to show you a little cheat that I make here. Because I want my seam allowance to come this direction as I'm sewing in order to get the best nested seam. And I do that on blocks like this that are going to sort of be dominant in a border. And a lot of times you can get away. You don't have to do it this way because when you flip these over, the seams are going to want to go the way they want to go. And you have to deal with that. But in a case where I can deal with it the way I want, well, by gosh, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to put this right here. I have my 5-inch from end to end, so I'll cut it at 2.5. And you see I still have my 2.5 over here. But you see by folding that seam in the opposite directions, when I cut and pull this apart, I just have to press it the way I want. But even better is I get the best darn centers in the middle. And look at it, isn't that beautiful? I love how this works. But there's more. The fun part about doing it this way is your blocks come out in an opposite direction. The fabrics are in different places. So now we can take this, and let's say we want to put this block up here. I don't know if, whoops, oh, we got, how many pieces do we have? Oh, look. Oh, I don't want to do the same one, so I'm going to use this one. So here are the extra 2 pieces that I have, and I don't want to be the same as this block by putting this right here because that would duplicate that, but I could put it down here. Ooh, that would be interesting because this would then be reverse of that. So see, there are ways you can put these together that allow them to really contrast against each other. Now, if you want them all the same, that's awesome. But when I go scrappy, I want them going every which way. So I'm going to sew these together, and then I'll have 3 of these ready to go. All right, now there's still more. You know there's still more. I'll be right back. Here's probably my favorite way because it's the easiest and the fastest. grab your 4 charm squares or any size. Layer cakes would work great too, but you just want to get some contrast. Lights and darks I think work really well. Since I'm going with red and green, I'm using one of each, and then I'm going to bring this over here, do my 1/4 inch seam, chain stitch because that makes it simple, and then fold these up and sew them together. I'll show you how that works. These are sewn together and I have them chain stitched. Now I can just sew this and have a nice big 4 patch, but there's one other thing I can do that I want to show you. I'm going to turn these around this way and sew this side. Now let me show you how this works. Now, does this look familiar where they're sewn together on each side? You know what we're going to do here. We're going to cut this at 2.5 because these are 5-inch charm squares, and we're going to cut them in half at 2.5 inches and just use our nifty little ruler here. We're going to open this and we're going to open this, and the important part is that our seams go in the opposite directions. Now, I will tell you, I have seen people do this and sew down the center, draw a line and sew a 1/4 inch on each side. But I think there's too great a chance that you're going to miss that seam. It's much better if you sew it along the side, because here you can nest that seam exactly where you need it, and then what you could do is you come back and cut it down the center here. So let me show you how this works. And here you can see I sewed the seam down one side and I get a great corner there. They all look wonderful. So now I'm going to sew on the other side, but you know what I do? I cheat. And this is what it looks like. And so now I'm going to cut my 2.5. I just want to make sure my seam allowances don't get caught up in there. My 2.5 inch strip. And look at that. I'm going to get 4 of these with all of them sewn and cut. And don't you love how the different corners line up? I mean, they're like mirror images. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. So I'm going to sew this side up and I'll have the same thing. I'll have another set. And there's your 4 patches. Oh my gosh, there's so many different ways. And if you have a pile like this, you can decide, cut them into big squares, cut them into strips, or cut them into individual squares that you want to make. You can do it with any kind of fabric, but Scrappy works beautifully. And what a fun way to use up all your fabrics. I hope you got a few ideas, from medium size to little ones, and using strips and using oh, and I have to show you what I did. Look at this. Okay, let me do it this way. This is what I want to show you. So when we did it with the strips, you can lay this out so that every block is different. See how I'm putting the green corner up there? And this is not the same, and this is not the same. And yes, of course, I had to put a corner in there. Where's my green block? There it is. So none of these are duplicated. All 4 of them have a different layout. Is that important? I don't know. It might be. But this way you can turn them every which way, and it's just kind of a fun way to do it. And you know what you could do is put the reds in the center and kind of create a block that has, oh, there you go. You're going alternating. It's just so much that you can do with the whites on the outside. Oh my gosh, if you put solids out here, how awesome would that be? And then try some snowballs. You know, you could snowball your corners too. Let's see, if I want that this way, and I put these to the center and snowball these corners. Oh, look, let's put that out and put this. I know, I get a little carried away all the time. Okay, so I want this red square to be in the outer corner. I want this in the 4 patch of the 2 colors, and then snowball these. Oh my gosh, there's just so much you can do. Think 4 patch. It's probably the easiest, absolute simplest block you can ever make. And it was probably the very first block, which is what many people believe, because it goes together quickly, easily, and it's adaptable to any size. So give it a try. And thank you for watching. I hope you learned a little something here. But do remember, give me a comment on which method you like for making your 4 patches, for making your scrappy 4 patches. Oh my gosh, now I have to decide what size to use on my scrappy row by row quilt along. It's coming. I can't wait to show you more. All right. Thank you for being here. Thank you for enjoying this. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I guess I'm being presumptuous, but it is always a pleasure to be here with you. Have a great rest of your day.